We have those times when we're down and we don't, we might have been trying and um, we have these big dreams and they, maybe they pan out, maybe they don't, and but there's always someone with us, and there is that spirit within us that is always there. So the but how many people have ever failed? You know, my guess, about 100% of us. You know, I know I have many times, and sometimes it's something that's really small and just annoying, like when I go dashing out of the house late to work one morning or late to a meeting, and I get halfway here and no cell phone. Gotta go home, get the cell phone, and come back. Right? And so the next time I try to go through my mental checklist, watch, keys, cell phone. Oh, missing the cell phone. So, but when you rush, sometimes you don't. Just don't. Fail. Or it could be something that's really super devastating at the time. You can imagine that, seeing either yourself or your own child, and it's a hot summer day, and the child has this wonderful ice cream cone. They're just so happy, and the ice cream is on the concrete. And there's a dog that immediately is running up and licking it and having just enjoying that ice cream. But the child, meanwhile, is just devastated and crying. And so the parents, they just kind of hiding their smile, and coming over and comforting the child. And but no doubt that child next time will guard that ice cream cone much more carefully, right? We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our fails. And so these examples make it easy to seem like it's really easy to just, fail, learn from our failure, adjust, come back next time doing it better. All right? But not all failures are so easy, are they? All right? What about those times when you're working on an important project and you work really hard and it just fails, or someone doesn't come through for you? What about you fail publicly, or in front of someone that you really want to impress, right? Or care about a lot. Or even worse, what if you fail because of something that we do fail because something we did and we become regretful about later? Deeply regretful, right? How do we maintain our belief in ourselves and that resilience, right? So in many circumstances, failure is a given, but what a person chooses to do with that experience of failure is called resilience. Now, sometimes all that's needed to find success, the elusive solutions, the creative ideas, is just a little push at the hands and the heart of wonder. When we step back and we use that power of wonder, knowing that God is present everywhere, and wonder, what could be that higher possibility? How could I do this different next time? And so that sense of wonder, not making it so devastatingly, permanently important, but saying, this is just another simple problem like remembering my cell phone. How do I do this big thing differently? Big or small, there's no difference to God. It's all the same relative to the infinite, right? So my talk today is about failing forward, right? What do we do when we have those steps that look like failures and shift it to failing forward? Now, there's lots of examples of people that have failed and then succeeded. One of them is Thomas Edison, and famously he said, "I have not failed 10,000 times. I've successfully found 10,000 ways that don't work to make that light bulb." Right? Henry Ford went bankrupt before he established the Ford Motor Company. Right? Big turnaround there. And Ariana Huffington, who's a commentator, she said, "Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success." And Albert Einstein said it probably the best. Failure is success in progress. Right? Now, Walt Disney, in 1919, he was working as an animator for the Kansas City Star newspaper. But he didn't last very long. Soon the editor fired him and said, "Disney, You are not creative enough and you have no good ideas. You're out of here. Right? So, determined to be successful, Walt Disney next bought a cartoon animation studio called Laugh-O-Gram. And within a few years, it was bankrupt. Right? So, another fail. So, but he still was determined to be successful. He knew that cartooning was what was his path. And so he and his brother came out to of all places, Hollywood. And then between that and Mickey Mouse and Disneyland and 22 Academy Awards later, I think he was turned out as a success, right? That creative force within Disney flowed so strongly. You know, that was his calling. He knew it, and he listened, and he didn't let any one step, being a failure or a success, stop him along the way until he fulfilled that calling. Now, failure happens to everyone. You know, we all experience success and failure. It is normal, totally normal. Now, just as someone lets success go to their heads, we can also see them, and they see themselves as better than everyone else. All right? But similarly, we can't let failure consume our hearts either. Failure is neither fatal nor permanent. Right? The infinite invisible, God or Spirit, is continually creating by flowing into form and creating everything that is from itself. In the book Creative Mind, Ernest Holmes said, "We have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our life. And we access it from within. It's always there. You know, it's like a fire hose that's continually flowing out. And it's not just a little trickle. It is this blowing blast of water, this creative force that is willing to go into whatever form we want. It's just up to us to direct it where we want it to go. And maybe there's times when we just need a little trickle. And sometimes we need that full blast to break through something, right? But the key is whatever we focus on, wherever we direct spirit, what we're co-creating, that is what is created. So if we're worrying, we get more of what we're worrying about. But if we're focusing on our positive intention, that is what is manifesting for us. So, and that happens whether we're doing it consciously or unconsciously. So we have to be very careful about what our thoughts are. Ernest Holmes said, "The mind is a magnet, and we attract that with which we identify the self." That's from his book, The Art of Life. And so, you know, our thoughts, our mind are magnets. And so we have to be careful of what we put in front of that mirror is exactly what we get back. That's exactly where we're directing that fire hose of creativity. So if we like what we co-create, we call it success. But it is spirit creating. And if we don't like what we co-create, we call it failure. But it's still spirit creating either way, right? It's where we've focused our attention. Spirit has created us with free will to choose our path. And given liberty, rather than a predetermined fate, we have that freedom to choose how we act. And that means the freedom to choose the high road or the low road. We have that choice. And so it's just how as in science, there is a trial and error process to see what works and what doesn't. With this creative process, it's kind of the same way. And when we fail, then it's just something that needs to be learned, an opportunity to correct our course to go towards our goal. You know, when you're sailing, you're constantly off your path, right? And they do what they call jibe and tack, right? So you want to go this way, but with the sail, you can't go directly there because you have to follow the wind. So they'll put the sail in one direction and go off this way, and then they'll change the direction and go off this way. And so it's a zigzag getting yourself to your goal. So that's how you stay on course as you go back and forth, right? And it's the same thing with our failures and our successes. They get us back and forth to our goal, right? Doesn't have to be a perfect straight course all the time, right? We want gentle lessons, hopefully, instead of brick walls, but it's a back and forth process. Now, failure then is an attitude. We get to choose whether we see failure as a negative event that's going to just get us to stop in our tracks and go no farther, or we can see it as an opportunity to change direction, right? And resilience is a measure of how well we do that, how well we come back after failures in our lives and setbacks. In a great book called The Power of Idea by Ernest Holmes, he says several things about this. Failure does not mean the loss of something. Failure occurs only if the loss of that thing takes our enthusiasm, our courage, our zest for life, our faith, our conviction, and our happiness from us. That is failure indeed. We buy into it and decide we're going to play victim. Right? But he also goes in to say, many people wonder why they fail and why they continue to fail. Failure is not to be thought of as something outside of ourselves. A sense of failure is only the psychological and emotional reaction we have to experiences which are negative. Right? It's our reaction, our choice. So why do some people learn from failure and others don't? Well, a key part of it, according to Ernest Holmes, is we are bound by nothing except belief. Right? So what we believe determines what we see. So if we think that there's this limit and we can't go beyond it, it's our comfort zone. No one in my family has ever gone to college, so I'll never be able to make it. I'll never find the money. I'll never be able to be a good student. Whatever. We set that limit for ourselves because that's not the truth. That's the truth until now, maybe, but it's not the truth of who you are, right? And so we. If you want your business to succeed, it's about having that in our work. It's about changing our belief about ourselves. And so you've also heard the saying, if you keep on doing the same thing you've always been doing, you're going to get the same result, right? And so beliefs are the same way. If you keep those same beliefs that you've always had, you're going to keep having the same results. And so we have to change our beliefs if we want to create something different in our lives. At the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern, they had a research project published in the Kellogg Insights online, and they said how people respond to failure earlier in their careers predicts whether or not they will eventually become successful. And in fact, people that have failures early in their career actually end up being some of the biggest successes. Right? Because they're willing to take a risk. They're willing to go beyond their comfort zone and do things in a different way. Be innovative. And so they found then from their research, and they looked at people that were trying to apply for grants. They had like 12,000 people that applied for grant, and did they eventually become successful? They had people that were trying to try and I don't know, it was a couple anyway, there's 3 different things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but were they eventually successful? Did they stick with it? And so the people that took a long time before their second attempt, they basically were throwing out whatever they did the first time, starting from scratch, reinventing the wheel, and build a better whatever it was the second time. And so they lost all the progress they had made, because they're going to do it better this time. And so that was kind of that perfectionist kind of thing. Now, those people tended to never quite make it. The ones that did were the ones that took their first innovation or their first application, and they said, what? They got some feedback. What is it about this that didn't work? They analyzed it, and they said, well, this is working, and this is not. And so they built on what worked and incrementally made those changes. They stayed focused. They kept trying, and they would do the next one soon after, and so it was a gradual building process, one on top of the other, as opposed to throw it away and start from scratch, right? And so it's like taking that fire hose and learning how to adjust where we're aiming it, right? Same flow, but we're just going to aim it a little bit closer. It's just like Edison, when those 10,000 times, he knew the concept was right, but just one more filament, one more try, hotter, colder, whatever, thicker, whatever he tried, it eventually worked. And so that, this feedback failure is part of the feedback. What went wrong? What went right? And so remember when you're learning to ski, right? So the first day they teach you how to fall. So you're not afraid to fall. And when you do fall, you're not injured too badly, maybe a sore bottom, but but you're not afraid to fall. That's part of the process, right? And then also there's these bindings on skis which get better all the time. Why? So when you do have a really hard fall, the skis come off and you're still intact, right? So it's okay. And so we practice making turns. We learn to go faster. We make tighter edges. You learn how far to lean forward, how far to lean back. Do you look down the hill? All those things that you try incrementally, and you get better. And eventually you go from the green beginner slopes to the blue intermediates, and then finally to the black diamonds, right? And just whizzing down the hill or jumping off the what do you call it? The hot dog skiing. And doing all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a gradual process, right? And so it's also important that we learn to fail with grace and with sincerity and with seeing possibilities for the future. There are some people that are perfect example is when you lose an election. All right? So America is built on the peaceful transition of power through the vote of the people. And when you win, great. And when you don't win, well, you fail. Then the question is, what are the people looking for? How do we have to adjust? This is how the country, tacks back and forth from Republican to Democrat or one candidate to another, one generation to the next, tacking our way to that more perfect union, right? And so that's losing with grace is a part of the process, being part of the loyal opposition, right? Working together for the good of the country. So these, however, are worldly outer feedback about what's going on. And there's also inner feedback that goes on. And this is when we take the time to be still and listen to that still small voice of God within us. It's about meditation. I mean, the infinite wisdom of spirit is available to us in our heart of hearts if we take the time to listen, right? And so we can, when we don't know how to go forward, we sit down and allow to ponder the possibilities, ponder what happened, ponder what to release, what to keep, where to shift gears. And so hopefully when those possibilities come, when those failures occur, we learn from nudges, if you will, gentle lessons, as opposed to, but if we keep going in the wrong direction, we're going to eventually hit that brick wall, and it can be rather painful, because I know, all right? So now, overcoming failures also teaches us resilience and persistence. And in the end, it's about going beyond where we have been before, beyond our comfort zone. Steve Jobs, 1985, founded this great company, Apple. But in 1985, he was fired from his own company. Right? He was a great innovator, but, he was an insensitive manager of people. He would fire people just because their idea didn't work out first time. Well, things weren't going that well, and so the company kicked him out. It was devastating for him, this company that he had built from scratch. But soon he picked himself up and he started a company called Next, which created a platform, working stations for educators and researchers, right? And so he transformed Pixar into that powerhouse animation studio, right? So 1985, by 1987, Next was doing very successful. Apple wasn't doing so well themselves. So they brought back Steve Jobs, and he had borrowed $12 million to start Next. Well, he earned $425 million when he sold it back to Apple. So I think he came out okay. But that was the innovation in the Mac operating system that transformed computing. All right? So he was still innovating, but this time when he was at Apple, he had learned a thing or two. He was a much better manager, and it all worked together. He learned from his failure, right? Very public failure. And also we now have the iPod, the iPad, and the iPhone. So who could live without those, right? So failure is a normal part of life. And I think Nancy's going to help me hand out. We have some, we're going to be working on putting this into action in our life. And so failure is a normal part of life. And something that didn't work well, so it didn't work well, all right, is something there for us to learn and to do better next time. And perhaps there is a signal to change our direction, right? Failures and successes both give us feedback that we need to correct, and whether or not something that we've assumed was correct, maybe it is correct and maybe it's not. Until you test an idea out, you don't necessarily know that it's really true. People might have believed it for centuries, but it's not true. Everybody thought the world was flat. Well, eventually someone was willing to risk and learn that you can sail around the world, right? So our task then is to set our intention and then to co-create with Spirit our desired goal. So today we're going to be working on coming up with with an intention that we would like to see manifest, and then setting it in motion with Spirit, with a spiritual mind treatment and a meditation. And for the people that are on Zoom, we've got a handout here that's people will be writing down their intention, their goal. So if you would get a piece of paper and pen or pencil, and then you can join with us. And if you would like to have the actual, there's a prayer, spiritual mind treatment that goes along with the intention, and we will be glad to email it to you or mail it to you. So if you would like that, put it in the chat or email admin@tahoecsl.org, and we'll send you a copy. All right, so is everybody ready now? Okay. So put the paper and pen down for the moment, and close your eyes. And as we breathe in, slowly in and out, we know that all there is God. One life, always creating, flowing into form. And the one power and presence creates the whole world from itself, including me and each one of us. We are one with God, one with wholeness, one with love. There is no separation. This is the truth of who we are. We are created from this great God stuff. Feel that divine love flowing through your veins, through your heart, through your mind, through every cell of your body. Feel and know that you are being called to co-create with God something good that allows you to live more fully, to live a life full of joy, of love, and peace. And let that idea come forward into your mind's eye, into your heart, into your whole being. Don't try and control it or say, oh, no, not that. That's too big or that's too small. Whatever comes forward, let it be. It is Spirit guiding you. Know that this idea is now being revealed. It is the divine gift to the world through you and as you. Gratefully accept the gift which is freely and lovingly given to you. Accept this idea as yours. Know that the process of manifesting this into form is your work to do, co-creating with Spirit. Say, yes, I am willing. Yes, I am ready right here and right now. Yes, I step up and begin. Say, I learn from each step forward, whether it is a success or a failure. I learn how and where to take the next step. Divine wisdom and love is my ever-present guide. With complete trust and joy, I let go and let God manifest this idea. I gladly do my part, and God does all the rest. It is an amazing journey. I am supported in every way. Gratitude and ease fill my being. All is well. All is good. And so it is. And so as you come back to this room, take a few minutes to write down your idea. You can keep writing, but when you take this paper home and post it in a place where you see it every day, and read the treatment, perhaps in the morning and again at night. Put a copy maybe on your mirror and say it aloud every day. Put a copy on your refrigerator or on the desk by your computer. Maybe some people like to put it on in their dashboard in their car. They remember. But speak it aloud with gratitude. Thank you, God, for and whatever it is that you're putting out there. The gift's already been given and you're accepting it. You're planting that new thought in your mind. Notice the resources, the relationships and opportunities that show up serendipitously to meet your goal, right? Maybe in places you've been looking at for months, and there it is. You suddenly see it, right? You are co-creating with Spirit. It makes all the difference. And so when you have a success, say thank you and write it down in your journal. And when you have a failure, well, pause, journal it, and ask, what is that message, right? What is there to learn? Is it an adjustment? Is it a change in direction? Or maybe it's even changing the goal to something that's even better than what you thought, right? It will take you even further towards that wonderful life that you desire and deserve. But the goal is there, directing that flow of Spirit in your life. And so the journey begins.